10 minutes late, but we have 3 items to do before that, so let's get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sharon, you can show council members are present with the exception of Mark Smith, who will not be here this evening. First thing we're going to look at is this Westler invoice for $10,000. I think it was on your docket at the meeting.
Yeah, I took it off, yeah.
That's coming out of water that really needs to be paid by SRF. Okay, this is for engineering fees on the water tower. Is there a motion to pay this submit this $10,000 claim to SRF? Your next step is what? This needs to go to Steve Rock. Is that where it goes next? Okay. Is there a motion to?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. $10,000 submitted to SRF through Steve Rock. Okay, we had talked at the last meeting about Earth Merchants and the sidewalk repair. Let me get it up here. And we talked about the bid and asking Jared Lucas for, so little. Yeah, Jared Lucas for bid on doing the whole thing, rather than just replacing the cement. He came in with a bid of $2741.70. And the bid that the property management company submitted was $6,300. And they're the same work. Jared's work is moving everything, putting in a new sidewalk. You know where it is on the side of the bank there? It's chipped away. It's really dangerous. It really is dangerous. Okay, so is there a motion to go ahead and approve payment? We pay no more than half. I don't think we'll have half, but no more than half for the sidewalk on the side of the bank. Jared Lucas's company, $2471.40. No, that's the total, so our half would be less than that. If we pay half, our half would be $1,236. But I think I'm going to try to talk her into paying more than half, because their bill was $6,300 if they started out well. We'll see what we can negotiate now. But is there a motion that we accept the bid of $2741 with us paying no more than $1,200?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Okay. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next thing we need to do is Sharon has set September 7th as our public hearing for our budget, for adoption of the budget for 2017. That's a Wednesday night. Monday night, and that is Labor Day. So we need to discuss whether or not we want to move our regular scheduled meeting to that night, do it all at one time. And we also need to set a date. Set a date for when we can have a we'll discuss that. Now that you're here, we're ready to start. Hello, how are you?
We're starting to be a little tardy.
Oh, this is Morgantown. Everything's tardy in Morgantown.
Great. Well, my name is Brian Bosma, and I'm the chairman of the Government Practice Group at Corporate Gardas Rodriguez and Indianapolis Law Firm. And I've been involved in public safety issues in representing fire departments, fire territories, fire districts for nearly 30 years. And Brad reached out to me. Well, it took us a while to get together. Maybe 6 months ago, we had some preliminary discussions about your talked about it, and I brought some materials, and I'm happy to walk you through them tonight if you like.
I will let you know that we are council members. This
Okay.
is our attorney and the clerk treasurer.
Oh, great. Good. Lee Robbins. Of course, Lee. You guys have worked on a couple things over the years. I didn't recognize
So just at school with Cheryl and
Yes.
Collinsworth and all that stuff.
Yeah, we worked together at Barbersville a little bit, a few years back. Yeah. And one other place where we worked on
Yeah, I don't know.
we had we were taking a police, forming a police merit commission.
No, all right.
From a town marshal. Chief. I'm happy to share these with you all too, if you don't mind giving them back when you're done, because I'll, got folks tomorrow too. Okay. So, this is old school PowerPoint, okay? And then I have, people learn in different ways, so I present things in different ways. So I've got, it's kind of a memorandum too, if that's of interest to you. Chief, would you mind if I pass that? Absolutely. Thanks. I'll hang on to a few that for tomorrow, so. Okay, so, with the advent of tax caps, the legislature in its wisdom has done this, and even prior to that, there was a lot of pressure from the Department of Local Government Finance for local units to find ways to consolidate and to find ways to get services together. For townships, there was a long history of, in growth areas, getting emergency loans, paying for fire services through that, having an excessive levy on your property taxes to pay for that. All these things coming together, the Department of Local Government Finance, that people need to start looking at alternatives. So some of these alternatives have been on the books for a long time. In 1994, the General Assembly adopted the fire territory statute. We helped one of the first fire territories in the state, Brownsburg, and the largest fire territory in the state, Brownsburg Fire Territory, create themselves. And there's a couple of other options as well. There's fire protection districts. You can do some things just through an interlocal cooperation agreement, just a contract among units and the township and Morgantown. Is there one other participant now? I can't remember.
No, it's Town of Morgantown and Jackson Township.
In Jackson Township. So there's a couple of different options available. The chief and I got together and just talked about how these options work. One of them is a fire protection district. I'm happy to talk about any of them. That's totally in the hands of the county. The county can create and dissolve, generally, a fire protection district. So most of the folks that we've talked to over the last 4 or 5 years haven't chosen to go that route. There's been some litigation around it too. It's been kind of a nasty mess. But the fire protection territory statute has proven effective in a number of cooperating units have gotten together and created territories. My materials used to say there's just a few. There's actually quite a handful now around the state. They're functioning pretty well. So if we turn over to the basics, 2 or more contiguous units, and as Lee knows, that units is a defined term that includes municipalities like towns and cities. It also includes townships. 2 or more of those entities can establish a fire territory for the purpose of fire protection, for fire prevention, and for EMS services. There's statute defines 2 types of units. Everybody that participates is called a participating unit. And then one of the units has to be designated the provider unit. Okay? And there can only be one of those. Now, on the next page, the provider's unit's responsibilities include maintaining all territory funds, but in a separate account that's solely for the territory, appropriating the territory budget, employment of or contracting with territory firefighters or fire departments, depending on how it's set up, and establishing a tax rate throughout the territory. And it can be a uniform tax rate, same amount for everywhere. The statute was revised to also provide that it could be a varying tax rate. So you have one tax rate established for one of the units and a separate tax rate established for the other unit. But it has to be the same throughout the entire unit. process has gotten, because a few territories were established, not by my firm, in a way that was perhaps not as well thought through and as open to the public as possible. The statute has been changed with respect to the adoption and how it's created. So there's now a requirement for at least 2 public hearings, and really, they put out, the Department of Local Government and Finance, DLG, put out some recommendations. You really almost have to have 3 public hearings. But they can be joint. They can be the participating units, legislative bodies meet together. There has to be notice for the public to participate, kind of an extensive notice. That was a change that happened in 2013. The DLGF is requiring some pretty extensive notice to the public as far as what the rates will be, what the plan is. There's really, it has to be a plan. A few of these folks have put it together and said, we're just going to do a territory, we'll figure it out later. And the Department of Local Government and Finance has said no more of that. We're going to have a plan first. So the process is, after these public hearings, and before April 1 of a year, you adopt the general ordinances for towns and resolutions for townships that state the boundaries, the identity of each participating unit, who the provider unit is, what the agreement is with respect to the tax rate, and then the statute says the additional details of the unit's agreement. That's where some folks, actually we've been brought in, our firm has been brought in to help people solve a problem when they created a territory and they didn't have the other details. You know, they didn't, maybe one party wasn't treated fairly, a town had all the control and the townships had none. So that other details of the units agreement we'll get to in a minute. The notice that you have to give to the public has to include a detailed 2-year pro forma budget. So what you think the budget is going to be for the next 2 years for each of the participating units, the tax rate and tax levy details for each unit, what your anticipated service and staffing levels will be, and another new addition is the effect on other units in the county on the tax distributions of local option income tax, excise taxes, and circuit breaker credits, and also a description of any planned capital improvements. Now, it's not in the statute, but in the DLGF guidance, they said they want this to go out at least 2 years, if not 3. Now, that happens to coincide with another statute that says if you create a new unit of government, you can establish a tax levy throughout the unit, and that's what territories do. They petition to have a new, take some of your tax levies off, right, and put a new one on as a territory fire levy, and the Department of Local Government and Finance, we'll get to this in a minute, will approve the rate, your budget, and what your tax rate and tax levy will be. They can step that up for 3 years beyond what normally could happen, because most of the units that are doing this are doing it because they have a fire service need. It's not just a convenience or we want to raise taxes. It's we're not making our calls, we're not getting EMS out in a timely fashion, and people are asking for these things. So the timing of the adoption of the establishment resolution is fairly critical. So if you were to pursue something like this, there would be plenty of planning that would take place here over the next 6 months, and then the statute permits an adoption resolution to be adopted between January 1 and before April 1. So if you were to pursue this would be a plan in 2016, adopt the resolution after, presumably you would adopt it after public input to hear the story and what the impact is on people. And then the statute says that the territory is established on July 1, but it's really only established in name only because you have to thereafter apply to the Department of Local Government and Finance. That has to happen by statute before October 20th. If you're doing this, I would say we're prepared to apply really quickly after you adopt the resolution, well before October 20 in the July zone or earlier perhaps. And as I stated, there's a statute that says if you're a new unit, new created unit, the Department of Local Government Finance will help you establish a tax rate and all this. And they will take into consideration, you actually record or have a court report at the public hearings because they want to hear what the public had to say in the communities, and they will take that into consideration when they help establish the budget. And then the territory tax rate takes effect the following January 1. So in our example here, that would be January 1, 2018. And then you wouldn't have a distribution until June 30th, 2018. All right? So what do you do? Well, that time period is transition, right? The town and the township would continue to work together, do their budgets, pool their resources or decide, who's going to cover what expense, and you begin branding yourself as the fire territory, whatever. I said Morgantown Fire Territory. I picked the name, you can call it whatever you want. And if you're going to rebrand your vehicles, you're going to put your symbol there, the guy's going to do patches, whatever you're going to do, and you do your budget plan, because you really need that 3-year plan to say, let's say we feel we need a few career firefighters, full-time firefighters, this many, we need this many over 3 years, and here's how we're going to do it. That's the type of plan that they want to say. Then the provider unit, and I don't know your particular circumstances, and I didn't cross-examine Brad about it. It could be either the town or the township, but that entity has more responsibility and authority. They actually establish a fund, a separate fund, so would it be more likely to be the town or the township? Okay, so let's just say it's the town. So the town would establish a fund, a separate fund, and they could pay no town expenses out of it. They could only pay fire territory expenses out of it. Okay? And we'll talk about how the township is involved with that as well. So the tax rate, whatever taxes are established for the fire territory, all of that goes into the fire territory fund that would be established by the provider unit. Now, the statute says the provider unit, with the assistance of the participating units, will annually budget. Now, I can tell you, it depends on your local circumstances, and I've seen folks do it all kinds of places. In Brownsburg, there's 3 entities. There's the town of Brownsburg, which is the overarching, much larger tax base, and then there's 2 townships, Brown and Lincoln. And what we did there was establish a fire territory board with 1 vote each, 1 appointee from each, and they draft a draft budget. It actually gets sent to the participating units, and their legislative bodies vote on it. And there has to be a majority of each one that votes. There are some places that say, our township has our little town that's in the big township has no experience in this regard. We really don't care, and we trust the township. So the assistance we want from the township as a provider unit is just let us know what it is. Okay? So you're very free to do that however you want, but that needs to be documented as part of the other agreements for the township that we talked about, and we'll talk about that again in a second. The provider, unless your agreement says otherwise, the provider unit ultimately controls the appropriations. But again, you can put things in your agreement that say once it's adopted, it can't be changed unless both units agree. And just as for other units, you can put up to 20% of an operating, you can have up to 20% of an operating balance to assure that you have adequate funds. And you'll have the authority to establish an equipment loan as you could as a township, or a cumulative fund rather, as a township or a town as well. All right, so once the petition goes to the DLGF, they have up to, if they approve, first of all, I haven't heard of them denying any applications, but they put out guidance that said we're prepared to deny it if you don't follow the rules. Okay? So presuming that the Department of Local Government and Finance approves the petition, they would ultimately set the tax rate and the budget and the levy. But they actually have that authority to do it for the township and the town right now anyway. All right, so it's nothing really new. It's just that the town and the township have starting from scratch for the new entity. And as I stated, you can have an equipment replacement fund, just as you could as a township or as a town for fire purposes, and it can contain up to 5% of the total fire protection services levy. It can be placed annually in the fund, so if you save, you have a tight budget, but you're able to save money anyway, you don't lose that, you can put it into an equipment replacement fund. The statute says that if you're going to enter into indebtedness, any type of loan or a bond issue or some other means of financing, a capital improvement or purchase of new equipment, each participating unit has to approve of that, and the DLGF reviews that as well. And then I left one thing, and there should be one revision here. What's the assessed value in Morgan County, roughly? Anybody know?
The county?
Yeah, the county. Is it 107 million? Okay. So the statute says that a fire territory, the participating units actually, can enter into installment contracts to purchase equipment and apparatus. That's something that is peculiar to township fire statute. Okay, so under fire territory you can do that as well. If you're under $60 million assessed value, you can go out 15 years for that type of a purchase. If you're over $60 million assessed value in the county, then you're limited to 6 years. One of the things that is critical to a successful fire territory is the interlocal cooperation agreement. We knows units enter into these for all kinds of things. We have drafted a very strong one for fire territories that deals with everything. Withdrawal, we don't do this anymore. What happens if we're at an impasse? And it's that agreement that is so critical. So some of the things that need to be in there are the use of buildings and equipment that are owned by either of the participating units. Right? We want to provide that, let's say the township has a station and the town has a station or a maintenance facility, where we're going to decide how the territory will use that jointly. The involvement of the participating unit in the provider unit's budget process, whether it's a lot or a little. And I've given you examples where it's been both units have to approve, and there are examples where folks just say, look, you're in charge, we trust you, we have a good working relationship, you take charge of it. The responsibility for administrative affairs is one of the participating units a silent partner, or are they active in management? If you have any full-time firefighters, you're required to have a safety board that makes hiring, firing, dismissal, appointing disciplinary issues. You may be already acquainted with this. So the question is, in a joint effort, how are we going to do that? Who's going to participate? What happens if we disagree? Frequently when people enter this relationship, each party has equipment already. I don't know what the situation is in here, but frequently each of the participants will have some things. So you want to provide what happens going in, and you also want to provide what happens if one of the participants should withdraw. And there is a statutory procedure that's very similar to the beginning process, has to be adopted between January and April to withdraw as well. The composition of the safety board for hiring, promotion, disciplinary matters. A delayed start date, if that is the desire. You don't want to have that July 1st start date. You just don't want to start until later. I would recommend, if you're going to do this, that you authorize the equipment fund in the original resolution and agreement. If you don't, you kind of have to go through an administrative process like you're starting a whole new territory and you get one approved later. Some folks found out to their disadvantage that if you don't provide in your interlocal agreement and in your resolutions that you are providing transport services, EMS and transport services, you can't do that unless your agreement says so, and pay for it out of the territory funds. Okay, so what makes the territory attractive to participating units? Well, first, if it's going to be attractive to the units, it has to be attractive to the public, right? So first is enhanced public safety, especially in outlying areas. I don't know if that's necessarily the case here, your service, of course, not everybody will live the same distance from a response spot, but the service should be the same throughout the territory, with the exception of distance to facilities. So that's an attraction. It does allow you, if you're hamstrung with the property tax cap at this point. Again, I've not looked at your fiscal situation, but it does allow, if you have a proper purpose and you made your case to the Department of Local Government Finance, it does let you step up your base tax rate and levy over a 3-year period to meet the community's needs, if that's desired. And then participation by the units. If participated in the attempted establishment of one up in St. Joe County, and 2 of the participating units said the third one, well, we're not letting you in on anything. The 2 of us are going to just control this. We'll tell you what happens. And of course, that unit did adopt a resolution because they felt like they were frozen out. So I always suggest to people, if this is going to be a joint effort, you should do your best to try to have some joint participation as well. Who picks the territory fire chief? I mean, that's and other officers. District chiefs aren't an issue here, but who's going to participate in the safety board? And it does create the opportunity for efficiencies and expanded coverage. The chief asked, what does a program like this, what's the expense of the participating units? And I'll give you an estimate. I think that's always dangerous to do, but my experience has been that on the legal end, we prepare the documents, kind of meetings, go through notices and approvals, answer questions, on the order of $15,000 to $20,000 worth of time. I would also suggest that I don't know who does your fiscal consulting. Now, if you have an outside consultant, there are some that have participated in the creation of territories kind of routinely. And you and I need to work with a couple that have been involved with territories for a long time. We'll then need to have a fiscal consultant help you with these pro forma. I can do it, but you'd rather have somebody that's looking at these budgets all day, every day, and tax rates, and come up with your 3-year projections of cost. And that would be with community and elected official participation as to what you can, and of course your professionals determining what's needed, what should you be doing. So that's kind of the presentation. I'm happy to answer questions, or you may have other thoughts that come to mind that aren't included in this.
The only thing I want to add is we've already got that in our budget to cover this. So there's no expense to the town for Mr. Buck.
Well, I have a couple.
Sure, please.
What's the question?
Okay, I'm sorry, tell me your names again. I should have started with the introduction.
Oh,
Just jump right into it.
You said that it takes the approval of once it's formed, then it takes the approval of boards.
Yes.
To do things moving forward. Now, is that a quorum of each board?
Well, it depends on what your agreement says. You have ultimate flexibility in this. So if your agreement says, let's just say, your desire is to let Morgantown deal with these headaches, and you just know about it and not have to vote on it. Your agreement can say that. The only thing then that the township, the other participating units board would have to approve is debt. Okay, they're going to borrow money or something. Statute says all participating units have to approve, and it would be a quorum, approval of a quorum. Yeah, so the majority of the board of each board. Now, the agreement can also say we both want to micromanage everything, and that's okay. And that would require, however it's laid out. Sometimes people say the executive does it, so the trustee and the town board president serve in these capacities. Again, any debt would have to be approved by both legislative bodies.
So how does this affect the money that we're receiving now through local option public safety?
It should not change that. Each unit will still, okay, so this is, I'm not heading too far in the weeds here, but a fire territory is not an independent unit of government. not a separate unit. Each of the participants are. So that's a long way of saying each of the participants should still receive their share of county option income tax or whatever else, but the agreement would like to say it goes into some or all or portion of it goes into the fire territory budget. And consequently, the fire territory fund that's maintained by the provider unit. Let me give you one other piece of information. It doesn't exactly answer your question, but it's kind of tangent to it. So, to the extent that the township and the town have fire levies today, and I presume you both do, some fire levy, there's some taxes that come in for fire protection purposes. Is that true, or do you know?
I don't believe we do.
No, it's just public safety, and we
Well,
sign a contract.
right, but you pay for that with a levy for fire services or no?
I don't believe
Township
so.
does.
Township does. Yeah. So what happens is, to the extent you have those levies, they go away, and a new levy, a new rate is established that goes into the fire territory fund. I didn't put it in an outline, but the statute is very clear that one of the jobs of the Department of Local Government and Finance, when they review the budgets and the proposals, is to confirm that there are not two tax levies for the public safety purpose, essentially.
And what if there is one now?
Then you can establish one.
Establishment.
Yeah. So let's say the township has one, then it would go away. And it'd be replaced.
I guess the residents of the territory that are also residents of the town are going to be subject to an excess levy to fund the territory. So there may be a case that Morgantown residents would be subject to some additional tax that they probably ought not be subject to now, because there probably ought to be a fire levy in the city.
I'm not sure.
So,
I mean,
I'm not
I
either.
don't remember seeing, I don't remember seeing that.
You're pretty sure of that?
I'm pretty sure, I mean, there's nothing that comes that says directly for fire, and or levy.
So the money that is paid to the volunteer department now from Morgantown comes out of the general fund?
It's public safety.
Public safety.
Public safety.
Public safety, local option.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have a property tax levy for it at all?
No.
That's that one.
I'm almost sure we don't, because it's not, but we don't have to budget.
But that public safety, the local option income tax public safety, would that be redirected there, or is that a low?
If it's designated for low, yes, it would, yeah.
So that would go away, or that would not?
No, you would keep that, and that would go into the fire territory fund. It would be redirected.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be more taxes, or there might not be more taxes.
Well, if you have enough and you're loaded to fund what you need, no, there wouldn't be additional taxes. But usually when people are doing this, they say, we need more resources, and now is the time that you can do that.
What are the practical reasons? I mean, why are we doing this?
So
I'm not asking you this as a challenge. I'm asking to understand. I mean, why now and
the basis of it is, I've been here 10 years, you've been here, 24. And we've always had a volunteer, for the most part, a volunteer ambulance in town. And over the last, it's become, a volunteer ambulance is very unreliable. It's there, it's not there. You don't know. It depends on how many people walk in the back door, if you're actually going to get an ambulance or not. We're at a point now where the county is struggling. We've always been able to pull an ambulance out of Martinsville. We can't do that anymore. The city of Martinsville has one ambulance that they pay. They only have one available. They want to send
the whole of Martinsville?
Right.
Two during the day, one at night. And right now they're both in Indianapolis because I had our crash there on 37.
So
That's
there's in a situation like what he's saying, And if the county ambulance, the EMA ambulance is out in any other part of the county, there's no, if you volunteer, EMT don't show up here. You don't get an ambulance.
So EMS is what's driving this right now, not fire service, fire protection services, but
We're in a position where the same applies to the fire service. Your house catches on fire at 1 p.m. on a Monday, the chances are you're going to get 2 people to show up and you can't put a fire out with 2 people.
so it's not so much equipment as it is
Manpower.
manpower.
And we're not, just so everybody's clear on this, we're not looking for a career fire department. We're just looking to expand the service we have now where we have 2 paid
Standby.
standbys. And,
So
but we
this
want
one
to do
is
it 24/7.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Right now we provide 2 people on paid standby, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And our goal with this is to double that, is to provide 24/7 paid standby, so that every time somebody in the town or township picks up the phone, needs an ambulance, they get an ambulance or fire truck or
And you have to have 2 on station to take
ambulance
and what about 3?
per truck.
To take 1 out.
Right.
So if you don't have 3, if you have 2, you still have to have 1 to get here before you can take the engine out.
Correct.
That's the rule.
And that is an NFPA standard, and
Right.
again, it's not an NFPA state, it's an OSHA state, but
But you
correct me if
follow.
I'm wrong, when you follow OSHA, it falls back to NFPA, so.
Okay. So then the equipment that you guys own now, right? The volunteer company owns everything?
We own everything with 3 trucks, the township owns 3 trucks.
Engines or just,
They own 1 engine and 2, the 2 rescues we have.
would that change the ownership of the equipment?
I don't know that.
If you can do it that way, your agreement can say that the township is going to retain its ownership and it's going to contribute it to the use of the fire territory. Some places, change the things level. But I would probably leave it in the name of the township and just say it's being contributed. Attach that to a list.
But the equipment, the engines and equipment, whatever that is, turnout gear, or whatever you have that is owned by the volunteer company, do you continue to own that? Or did one of the units take ownership of that?
You could do it either way, and it would be a provider unit. So,
And so, but could the territory have a contract with a volunteer company and add to that paid standby that would be 24/7 and just improve on what we have, or does the volunteer company? This is the part that I'm very hung up on.
sure.
We have a contract, the township and the town have a contract with a volunteer department now. There is some equipment owned by some of the units that have that contract, but you own some of your own.
We own the bulk of it.
Okay, right, that's what I understood. And from what I tell you, guys do a great job, unlike other places I've been affiliated with. But do you want that to change? Or do we form this territory and the units, in whatever form they decide to, through whatever agreement they fashion among themselves, do they then just contract with you in the way that we kind of have historically, with some improvement on that, one of which would be 24/7 standby? And what else you guys think you need? Or does your volunteer company go away and you become sort of agents or employees or something of the territory?
We can do it in any, we've done it all these ways. We've done it where they go contract.
But do you know what you want it to look like at this point?
I mean,
you
we
have a
still,
goal in mind.
yes, the goal would be to basically improve what we have would be.
But you still be a volunteer company.
Correct. We
You
can't do
still
that
have a
volunteer.
contract with the territory.
Right.
The territory would be more formalized with the 2 entities joining to form it, but they'd still contract with you and write you a check every year, and you kind of do what you do, but there'd be some additional funding for you to do more, better. Right? But you're right, you wouldn't
That's our
join
goal.
anything,
Right.
and you wouldn't give up your property.
If we have to change our name for the territory's sake, we
Yeah.
don't want to do that.
Okay.
So we're not frankly, if you're not going to establish a fire rate on property taxes, it may be less complicated to just do this with an agreement. Because the purpose of forming fire territory is to have a uniform rate. You get a uniform rate and you can get it stepped up over 3 years by the Department of Local Government.
And that's where our goal comes in, because right now our budget doesn't allow us, we're spending money on money that the town and the township we've historically put back for apparatus upgrades, or new turnout gear, or that, we're spending that money to provide the service during the day because there's no during the day nobody here.
Okay.
So in order to provide the service we're having, we're basically robbing ourselves of future improvements.
So as part of what money in the form of what the territory could do in the way of a levy, that we can make available to you for you to improve, for you to take money now that you're spending on some staff,
Right.
that you can spend, take that money and get it back to spending on what you need.
What we need to spend.
And the additional money that we might raise through a territory, you would be able to then use on staffing to the level you think you need to. Is that saying it kind of in a way? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because what I've got is we've got, if you walk out in our fire department, either one of them, we probably got the nicest equipment of any volunteer.
Well, you sure seem to.
And we take pride in that.
Yeah.
But we don't want to get in a position where in 10 years we can't do it because everything is aged and we don't have the money to upgrade it. When we keep the same level, the reason that we can provide the level of service we do provide is because we have good equipment. If I show up to your house on fire and I can't get water on a fire truck, we don't have the reputation we have. So to keep the reputation we have, we need to be able to show up when you call and show up with the right equipment. For those that don't know, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, a gentleman out in the township passed away and left us a substantial amount of money, which picked us up to where we are now. We got a new engine that needed to be replaced, all new turnout gear. Well, most of that stuff's lifespan is 10 years. So we're 3 years away from having to buy $80,000 worth of turnout gear and, a $400,000 fire truck. And
So to put it in sort of crude terms, and not, but you're just, as we move forward, you're just going to need more money than what you've been getting from the township and the town in the past.
That's
and
the
so
goal.
this is some way maybe to figure out how to tap into some revenue source that we aren't right now.
Correct. And fix some problems. We can't rely on the county to solve the EMS problem. I mean, when my grandma and grandpa pick up the phone and grandpa's having a heart attack in the bathroom, I want to make sure ambulance shows up.
Would the formation of this territory expand the area you serve over what you do now?
No.
It wouldn't, would it?
Right.
So when you use that as an example, that is it because they're responding in your territory now, or we're counting on other agencies to respond now?
If we don't respond now, we have to rely on outside sources.
Okay. And you'd be better able to respond if we did this. Okay.
Right now, our closest medic is paramedic because we're all EMTs here. And for somebody to show up and actually go push drugs and do substantial life support, keep you alive till we get you to proper care, is Barber's north of Barberville or Station 53 on 37 and Smoky Road. If Martinsville won't let us have it, or Bloomington Township.
Well, Mike, I do want to clear on one thing, because you asked this, but I got back here in the DLGF approves their budget, and the town, or the provider, whoever that is the one that keeps the books. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There's not so there would not be a separate treasurer of the.
No, if it was a town, it would be the clerk treasurer.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I
would be the
thought,
person who would be
funds-
responsible for writing checks and that kind of thing. Sure.
So those-
More to do.
Or if it's a township, it'd be the trustee.
Yeah, exactly. So those funds though then are more monitored than. The other thing that I wanted to kind of back up here, because I want to make sure I get this in my mind.
Sure.
Okay, so look at the timeline.
Yes.
Now, you say that the soonest, if this proceeds, January 1st, 2018 would be when the territory would be established. The first distribution would come June 30th.
Correct. So you would continue, you have to have a plan to
Yeah.
continue funding. What you're funding now, plus start making movement on some of the things that the chief's talking about.
And you have three public hearings actually. So you have 3 public hearings, and those would be held prior to, and you're doing all this homework. You're doing your public hearings, you're doing your performance, and all that, and prior to statute adoption between January 1st and April 1st. So if we started now, you have 3 public hearings prior to the adoption.
You would, yes, and they would have to be after January 1
After January 1st,
and
before
before
April.
April 1.
And so
Exactly.
then after April 1, oh no, you'd have to adopt so you'd have for 3 public hearings between January 1
Yeah.
and 4/1, and at the same time, you would have to adopt a resolution.
At the last
for
one.
At the
At the
last
last one. That's what generally happens then. And I'd say 3, it's really 2,
Yeah.
but the DLGF is kind of giving this noise that they want to be sue, and
Gotta make them happy.
I don't want to be with somebody that they say, we should have 1 more year.
Or kill somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Okay, so then April 1st, you've got your resolution that's adopted. So then you come along, and July 1st is when you actually have an operable territory.
That's what the statute says, but in fact, you don't have any additional funding or anything like that.
Next
So,
summer, of next summer.
well, actually, let's say you adopt it, let's use the 2017 timeline. Let's say you get yourself planned between now and January 1. You get your financial plan together, you talk with the chief and his team, you figure out exactly what you think you need over the next 3 years or more. And we get all that on paper. You collectively put together a presentation for the public to tell them what you want to do and why you want to do it, what the impact is on everyone, what the impact is on other units in the county. You have your first informational meeting sometime in January after you've given notice, and there's like a template now that the DLGF has put out. We want you to have at least this kind of information, right? Then you have to have another public hearing in which people have an opportunity to talk, and then probably 1 more, and then at that one, before April 1, you're adopting a resolution and approve your interlocal agreement. And then that very following July 1, okay, just 3 months later, the statute says the territory is effective, but it's effective, but it has no budget or tax rate until the DLGF
Approves it.
approves it. So that's why I would say that you can do that as late as October 20. If you were going to do this next year, I would advise you to do it right after you adopt your resolution. Have all your ducks in a row.
So,
Okay, and then let me finish up. So April 1 or before April 1, you adopt your resolution. You file your petition with the DLGF pretty quickly after that. Let's say they approve and they establish a budget for you. Then that all really becomes effective following January 1. That's when a tax levy, if you have a tax levy, starts getting collected. And of course, that's distributed in arrears.
So basically, we're going to be doing a budget that next summer after they approve it and get our budget for the funds.
Yes, you're kind of going through the budget process.
Yes, you're going through the budget process, and you get the levy
Yeah.
and everything, and then you get the money.
Yes. So you got some transition in there. And you got to, you're living longer, probably should doing great in your opinion, for going under fire safety. So you still have those funds that you have available to you now, and you use that as your transition. And then they can step up a levy over up to a 3-year period, and then it's subject to the normal caps.
So, when July 1st, when this becomes, the territory becomes operable, even though there's no budget, or there's no funding, no budget, would the fire department then roll over into this fund that the town's going to establish?
Well, that would be up to you all. I've not seen that happen. A private entity can make a contribution to the territory fund. In most cases, if you're going to maintain the volunteer department, you would not do that, but we could figure that out. If that's what the
Well, I'm
decision
just
was.
thinking at some point,
Sure.
their treasury, whatever they have, if it's $200, would have to be rolled over into this fund. At some point, would that be January 1st, 2018?
It could be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In some way, you could not maintain two separate accounts, right?
Yeah, well, you would be allowed to still maintain a separate volunteer fire department corporation account.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Yeah. So now, if you were going to, and I heard that this wasn't the plan, but in some places, it's the plan to say, our real problem here is not to have full-time
We have seen the problems at neighboring Nashville's an example. I think they're down to 6 volunteers.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if they have a fire, they're in trouble, 6 or 8, they don't have very many volunteers. And one of the things that, in my opinion, that this does is this isn't for 2018. This is for 2028. This is ensuring that our future generations have adequate fire protection because it's only going to get, and this territory is going to move south. And so it's really being proactive and saying, we want to maintain our own, we want to maintain our independence, we want to take care of our own, and we want to set this up now to ensure that the future generations don't have to go begging to whoever, to have an ambulance come here. Because we've had that in the past.
Well, I will definitely confirm from my 30 years of law practice what Brett said. When we met, he said it right away, I said, I know, is that it isn't like it was 30 years ago where folks easily left their job and would volunteer to fight a fire or run ambulance runs or whatever it was. It's just different. Young people aren't doing it, right? Some, I consider you pretty young actually. But young people aren't doing it like they used to, and the volunteers are aging, and those that are employed are having more difficult time saying, hey, boss, I'm gone, we got to run it, I got to run it. Hang on for a second. So there's been studies done north of here about, as we were seeking a grant to create a permanent career department, we had a study commissioned on the south side of Marion County, north side of Johnson County, about the changed attitudes towards volunteerism and the ability of people to do it. And it's just, as you just said, it's just marching south and it's marching north on the other end too.
Oh,
I got a couple of questions. I'm sorry I got in too late, but where would this fire territory involve? Be Morgantown, Jackson Township, Green Township? Or how are
it's
you?
just a two, it's just a two.
Our actual territory is still bigger than what we provide coverage to now.
Jackson Township. Okay.
Oh.
Are you familiar with plans to put an EMS tax on the county?
Yeah, and I'll see that get off the ground.
If it doesn't make it this year, it probably never will, and there's a lot of support right now on the council for it. It's an EMS tax that, if it goes through, that they will be able to put ALS ambulances in fire stations, and Morgantown would be one of them. I don't know how all of it's going to work. I've been told they'd be county employees and controlled by the county, but yet you would have ALS coverage here on a 24/7 basis. I just wonder what will that do to Carroll?
Well, there's still a need for the fire side of it.
Right.
The ALS guys aren't going to jump off an ambulance to go fight a fire, so there's still a need for it.
Well, most of them are firefighter EMTs, so.
Oh, but if they're county employees, I was told that they can't get off the county. They're not going to get on fire trucks and take off.
Some of the details that need to be worked out. Okay.
I had lunch today with a guy that told me, he said, he thinks about every day for you guys, because he doesn't know where he would be if we didn't have professional EMTs here. And I will say my best friend in high school, Marcia, I don't think she would be here if it wasn't for the fact that we had qualified guys on duty when she had her problem. So, I mean, golly, just the lives that are saved by having somebody there in a few minutes.
And that's something I think we can't put a price tag on. So we can sit here and argue about money all day, whether the county's going to do something or not going to do something. At the end of the day, I'm going to worry about my own.
So where's the township in this process?
We're doing this tomorrow.
Yeah, I've done it wrong. Check with them.
On the other,
Yeah, Mike.
We got a bunch.
You got a buck? Oh, my wife. That's great.
you have a question? No.
Is it your sense, though, that they're going to want to do this?
That's my son. Because he's actually footing the bill for what we're doing now out of his general fund. So the additional manpower that's available is available because of him. But he can't promise that forever. So
You mean that what they're paying
stipend to provide
Really?
the during the day service, but it's guaranteed not to be there. It's guaranteed.
Right.
This is a temporary solution until we can get this in place.
That's pretty, no, that's really great.
Because the town actually, for what we provide now, and with the exception of this year, we haven't increased what we ask from the town to provide what we provide.
That's been that way before. I mean, it's been that way for a few years.
Yeah.
That's great.
But like I said, that's guaranteed not to be there. You know, he can't keep doing that. So what he's asking for is
So that makes us a little more pressing too, right?
correct.
And
Because if he says no, I mean, honestly, if he doesn't approve our 2017 budget, give us the additional stipend, then we don't have any teeth during the day. It's as simple as that. So,
And you mentioned, I think with the question of that, which unit would be the providing unit? You mentioned the town, but why would you think it ought to be the town instead of the township?
I don't have a preference. I mean, that's going to be between you and the
Okay.
township. I have no
It's going to be a wrestling match.
Yeah.
You pick your best, they'll pick their best.
Well,
In some communities, that's a very difficult, right? And that's a very difficult discussion.
He's willing. I mean, I thought he's willing to be the provider unit. That takes, you know.
I mean, those are just details that,
Yeah,
right.
you know, like you say, this is just like the first reading. And I mean, those are all the details that.
in this case right now, there's not any competition or a sense of
Oh, no.
being territorial or
Oh, no.
possessive of that, this
No.
thing, right? I mean, there's
No.
really, like I'm sure there are.
Some places are, but in some places have a spending up to now, but most
This
just
one's
most
be
of
very
the
congenial.
which is great.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and the township board, three of them were former members of our department, so I don't think it's an issue with that.
Anything else from me?
Public questions?
I have one about the taxes. That's going to be a tax increase for us here in town, and for a while we'll be paying for the other part of the district.
We're not paying anything now.
You're not paying anything for us now?
We're not paying
I didn't know.
anything now.
Property taxes. This comes from the county.
That's our local option income tax.
None of our property,
Option income tax.
none of our taxes, period, go into this at
None of
all.
your property taxes.
None. Okay. Now, if they put this tax on, are we going to be the ones paying for it for the first 3 years there before this?
No. That would be, it would be a local decision, but I would recommend, if people are more comfortable, everybody's paying the same amount.
Okay.
You know, there may be a good reason not
Well,
to.
we have to be.
Don't they?
We couldn't do that.
Don't they pay county taxes already out there on their own fire service from the, doesn't the county cover that?
No. Oh, these guys have the fire station out there. You've talking about the Painted Hills? The Painted Hill Fire Station is a Morgantown fire station.
Understood. Where do they get their money? From us here?
No.
Well, we share. I mean, we throw into their bucket and so does the township.
The township.
Yeah, the township funds them.
The township funds the majority. They fund more of it than we do.
The town, where's the township get that money? Is it tax money that's being paid by them to Morgantown?
They don't pay anything in Morgantown, Joe. The township doesn't pay anything in Morgantown.
We're taking care of their fire service out there for nothing.
No, they pay us. They pay the
We're
Morgantown.
two separate entities. We're two
Correct, we're getting ready,
separate
but we're
entities.
trying-
Our monies do not commingle
But we're going to
whatsoever.
commingle.
We cannot commingle our monies. with the township.
But wait a minute, what happens now is there's a volunteer fire department that has a contract with the township
Correct.
and with the town. The town pays them a certain amount of money as our share, and the township pays
Much more.
significantly more as their share. We're just contracting with the same contractor right now.
But we're
The
talking,
township's paying a lot more than the town.
about starting an all-new tax for fire and safety in both places.
But, we are, except that would, some of the other taxes being collected now would be diverted to pay that, or would be released relieved.
But we don't
But
know,
it would be a new levy, that's right.
we don't know their levy.
It would, yeah.
We don't know their levy. They may be paying a fire levy already. We do not know
They
what
have
the
a levy.
township tax structure is.
Did you have a-
Township has a levy.
They
But we
have, oh, so the township, so people in township are already paying this.
That would do away with our contract with them. The tax levy itself would pay for both without that contract. Or is it going to be the contract that they are
Maybe
paying?
you're confused. There wouldn't be a contract.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, there would kind of be a contract between
I
the
mean,
two
but the
units.
contract is, I mean, there's a new territory. It's a whole new entity. It's a whole,
I don't know that anyone can say right now whether the tax would be more or less. But I think the extent to which the town's general fund money, which is property tax, don't let me screw this up,
It is property.
which is property tax and paid to the fire department now, if we form this territory, that property tax may come in a different form. But I don't know that you're going to end up paying more tax out of your own pocket to fund this than what you're already paying now, because we're paying them for contractual services with general fund money now,
Right.
the source of which now is property tax. Not local option income tax.
Correct.
And what I fear we've discovered tonight, and we're going to have to look into, is we may not be collecting tax for fire protection and firefighting services, and maybe should have been all along.
probably should have.
Well, you can only have one of those, so if the township is doing it everywhere, including in the town,
Okay.
which is not impossible,
Right.
then you only be paying for it
And
already
maybe
anyway.
build in, okay, that's something we need
Just
to
those
find
ones that
out.
go to township.
Yeah,
But I think if there's an excess levy that's going to them to pay them in the fire protection territory, then we're not going to be paying them out of the general fund like we are now. Unless the town just decides in the agreement it has that we're going to add additional sort of supplemental funding to them through another source,
But we would be,
which could happen, Brian. I mean, if we decide to kick that in, we could. But we have to decide there's a need to. And hopefully there would be. But
That's the purpose of it.
that's the hope, yeah. Is that right? Yeah,
So there-
And what I'm saying is,
We're
am I
gonna
saying
be-
it in a way that makes sense to you?
we're going to be taxing them
Who?
out then at Painted Hills. So they're going to be paying the tax to the town of Morgantown.
No, they're not. Not to Morgantown.
To the,
There's no scenario in which we can tax
I'm
people
not
outside
confused at
the
all.
boundaries.
The hope is everybody's paying the same, and it's all working its way to the volunteer department for fire purposes and EMS.
okay, we'll see how it works.
Yeah, and we don't have an illustration yet either, so we're all kind of guessing what might happen.
We'll see how it works.
Okay, hey, my pleasure to see you all tonight, and if this works out, look forward to working with you. If not, it's been my pleasure to be here tonight and talk about it a little bit. Lee, first of all, put my contact information on the front of that, and you're free to contact me. Lee and I talk every once in a while. It's been too long, actually, but and Brad and I have been talking, so. All right, thanks so much. You can keep those, because I have more than I thought. My assistant's more, yeah, she's more efficient than I thought. Sure.
See them all. I'll leave.
I'm sorry, I said that.
We
She's
have
very
one
efficient.
other thing probably we have to set up, a special meeting or budget thing for us. We need to set a meeting for our budget when we sit down to go over our budget. So, how are you guys on Monday, August the 8th? Mondays are good for you, right? And we're on Mondays, or Mondays are good for you. How about Monday, August the 8th, to go over budget? Let's just set that. Okay, we'll make that 6:30. Okay, that's just a special meeting to go over budgets. Okay? So we're going to talk about first. Our town board meetings on the 1st. We have this is Dixie, this is a meeting where we go through the budget line by line, talk about what we think we will spend the rest of this year, what we think we can save out of this year's budget, and look at what we think we need next year to fund next year's budget. Okay? Any public comment?
One more thing I'd like to discuss. Dick Clark left a map for the town. Could I get the board's permission, all of you, to take it over to Martinsville and have it copied, and I'll bring you a couple copies back? I'll take good care of it, I promise.
Well, it's not town property. It's really not town property.
It's admitted-
It's an archive, but, I mean,
That's town property. Who's it belong to?
I don't know.
It belongs to us, we the people.
Okay, we the people.
Could I possibly do that?
Do you have to have our permission?
Yeah, well,
Public?
Lee asked me to ask you, to discuss it with you.
What is it?
Who did? I do.
Yes, through Becky.
For Becky.
Oh, okay. I think that because it has been given to the town, it is a public record.
It's an insurance map. It's not a,
I
yeah,
know. But I think the concern is it's fragile.
very.
And so, Becky, I think what I communicated to Joe is it's going to, it could be copied in sections, you know, and then taped together or something like
Right.
that.
But I
She
could,
can't
It's a
copy
very
it
good
on,
copy.
she can't copy it on a copy.
But
No,
she can't copy
no.
things too big.
it'd be better done on a map copy, on a proper one. And I'd take good care of it. I just have to go to Martinsville to the courthouse and then,
Does anybody want to make that motion?
I think that's okay.
I mean, I-
Interest doesn't happen to it.
I can't insure it. I mean, it's priceless. There's no way to,
Yeah.
if something happened, it'd be drastic, but I promise I'll take good care of it, and I'll bring back a couple copies for the town. Or for you. You could have,
My intent, Joe, when I saw that, was I have a friend that owns a plastic company, and they make frames for things specifically like that, was to have the whole thing framed, and then put either in the new town hall or in Kathy's, or someplace where it would be on display. But it's not legally, the drawing on that, it has nothing to do with the plating of the town or anything like that. It's for insurance purposes only. It's an insurance map.
I understand what it is, but
not-
it's still a public record.
Okay, well, whatever.
No, but hang on.
I mean, just because someone brings something into town hall, it becomes a public
It
record.
does if it's received by the town.
Did it just now come into town? Nikki Clark brought it in when he was cleaning out his files, because Warren Hurdle had it. Warren Hurdle got it from.
But it doesn't have any legal significance. It's not a record in the sense that it proves anything about the layout of the town, the plan of the town. It's not, it doesn't have any legal or binding effect. It's just a depiction of the town, I think, to the point when, I don't know, there's one use or something you say was an insurance.
Yeah, Mr. Carter
But
was
at
an
the point that we
insurance.
take it in and own it, and it is a document, it becomes a public record that the public can inspect and copy. This is tricky because it's so old and it's so fragile. So,
Richard Clark brought it into the town hall and said he wanted the town.
just to have it, right, as
Yeah,
a keepsake
and I
or something.
brought it to a meeting.
It's like falling apart. I mean, it's been taped, it got taped, it's been taped. but
It's in
that's-
horrible condition. It is, it's in horrible condition.
I mean, and the other part, it isn't the case under the Access Public Record Law that someone requesting a public record has the right to take the original out of the town. They have the right to have a copy on their own equipment that they can bring, or on our equipment. So what Joe's asking for is something extraordinary, but I don't think Joe's going to steal it.
Well, it's not really worth it.
And I assume, like he says, he's going to be careful. I don't know. I guess the question would be, does anybody object to him not bringing it back?
All right, thank you.
Can you adjourn? Oh, yeah, question, sir.
Creek that went down,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Uh-huh.
this last storm, we got a bunch more stuff.
Did you? Okay. Well, I know Jeff called the county, so we'll call them again. That's their, the creek is their county responsibility. So, okay. They need to know it's worse.
Can I say
Always complaining.
Can I say one quick thing? I think that, her name was Pam Johnson, I'm not sure what her last name is, but she did bring in a complaint form. That ditch that's over on Grant Street, like before the park, and then on up Grant Street, say that ditch right there really needs to be addressed. What's happening is that when it rains, and I know we got problems all over town, but this is important because it's damaging our home. But the water is coming across there, and then, what's the guy's name there right at the park?
Francis, Jeff Francis.
But there's a drain, and the drain's not very big right there. So what's happening is that ditch is really dirty, so stuff is coming down, it's blocking that drain, and when it does, then the water goes right across the street under her house. And I mean, it's bad. It's coming all up under her house because she doesn't have a basement like a lot of us have. That ditch really needs to be addressed, so that could end up being possibly a lawsuit. I'm just saying, they're very upset about it. We went over there and looked, and there's water just standing under their house. It's really bad. I didn't know if y'all had seen that, or she had even turned it in yet, but I wanted to address
I haven't
that.
seen anything. We don't get those.
Okay.
Who gets the town hall, gets the town hall in it?
Becky would have gotten it if she turned it in.
Oh, has she
Oh,
turned
she
it
doesn't
in?
know if she's turned it in, but we don't get them supposed to be.
Oh, you don't know whether she was